across the world, and they want to know that they're getting the same standard of office quality in Rio de Janeiro as they're getting in New York. And even though maybe the local market in Rio de Janeiro is a little bit under where we would build, we're building Class A green buildings everywhere because that's the tenants that we rent to, that's what they want.
Okay, well, great. Before we go to the other panelists with this question, I see people lining up. That's great news. So go ahead and please state your name and background.
Hi, I'm Alicia Silva from Revitaliza Consultores in Mexico. And this is a question more for the prudential person. I saw a lot of buildings in your presentations that were mainly from the US. And we're actually working with one of your projects in Mexico. And I don't see the same emphasis that you're having in the US as in Latin America or so forth. And I was really like questioning myself if you have, what is driving the green building for you? I mean, are you only doing green building when the market is asking for it? And maybe this question goes for everybody. I mean, are you doing green buildings just where people are really demanding, where the consumers are more educated? Or, you know, or this is a company policy? Because when I see international companies like this, it's usually, oh, we're doing this in, you know, the developed world where it's almost the law, but in the other countries where it's just, you can do whatever you want, basically. It's just, you know, a different standard. But then when a company makes the commitment to go to a higher standard, then what is driving this?
Right.
Sure.
That's a great follow-up question, basically what we're discussing, David.
Sure. And I think to some degree you're right, that market demand helps to drive that. And without that market demand, it's a little bit tougher sell sometimes. I will tell you that we do have a project in Mexico City where we are pursuing LEED certification. And I'll also let you know that we have a fund in Mexico, our PLA retail fund in Mexico was our only Green Star out of 8 funds that we entered into GRESB. So we are doing things where we can. The market does drive it. Clearly, we've got to have an economic benefit first, and if the market isn't there, it's sometimes a little bit tougher sell. So it isn't that we're interested, but I think we're really driving after the high impact first, where we can have that high impact, and we're following up as quickly as we can thereafter.
Right. Great. But before we go to the next question, Sander, what's your view? You're investing in the funds of Prudential, Tishman Speyer. Do you make differences between India and on the one hand and Indiana on the other hand, if you invest there at all? But how do you view the difference between developed and developing markets?
Yeah. So it's difficult because sometimes it is also a question about the strategy of the fund manager. So if the strategy is to go out and buy secondary assets in secondary regions, then probably labeling or certifying buildings doesn't make a lot of sense. So there's always this trade-off between the value proposition and whether you are really adding value to the portfolio. But we do believe a fund manager should set the same standards across their full portfolio. And you should also go beyond legislation, and because you also have to anticipate even stricter or tougher legislation in the coming years.